What's up, everyone? It's time for a little juice. The Rayburn juice, guys. It's something about red. It's all about red. I mean, that's what it is. It's all about red. That's what we're going to dive into today. Man, these juice videos, it's been a while now, a couple months. Haven't been able to make one. And we're going to make one on Rayburn. I'm actually doing one on Rayburn. I say that because I actually had a guy comment. He's like, "Are you really actually going to do one on Rayburn?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll do one on Rayburn." I'll do one on Rayburn because it doesn't really matter. Rayburn changes so much. It's the craziest thing I've ever been on. This juice video will be different, though. It'll be different than all the rest of them. And every one of my juice videos is different. And the reason is what I try to do in these videos is I try to figure out what was like the most important thing. Like what did I figure out from practice to tournament time that made the difference? What changed? What did I adjust to? What did I not adjust to? Sometimes I didn't, sometimes I did. And it could be an area, it could be a bait, it could be timing, it could be all sorts of things. But it's usually something that keyed me in and that I really put the pieces together, right? And so this is one of those Rayburn ones where there wasn't a spot, it wasn't any of this stuff, but I'll kind of give you the reasons on why I did what I did. Let's jump on in, guys. Like I said, if you're new to this channel, I don't really want to call it a recap. It's not really a recap. It's what I learned throughout the event that will help you figure out things when you're trying to fish. I highly, highly suggest watching my practice videos day 1 and day 2, and then you'll better understand what I'm trying to get across to y'all. Because if you watch those, I put certain things in those videos on purpose. I go and edit them all, and then I usually do this juice video right after I edit it because it really keeps everything fresh in my mind on what went down. Although I got to be honest, I don't think I'm very smart. I don't know if in school I had a pretty good memory. I'm not one of those people that remembers names very well of people and stuff like that. For whatever reason, I could probably tell you every single fish I caught last year in every tournament in order. From all the 30 tournaments I probably fished last year, I could probably tell you every single fish in order to this day. I can tell you in order of probably 300 terms I've fished of how we caught the fish in order. I don't know what it is about that, like where I caught it, how I caught it, when I caught it. It's kind of crazy. So it's very easy for me to think back and remember the stuff in the videos and when I caught fish and then how my mind processed that. So let's jump on in. All right, practice. I practiced one day, 10 days before the event. It was a nice day. I got to get out on the water for a couple hours. It did not really help me. I thought I had figured him out. I caught him. That was one of my best days. I went there in the tournament on day 1. I didn't show it because I never even had a bite. I didn't go there on day 2. So I get in the boat Monday, and a buddy of mine who I've known for forever, Gilbert Harold, asked if he could practice with me. I said, "Yeah, sure, come on." And so he jumped in the boat and he was like, "What do you want me to throw?" And I was like, "Man, whatever you want to, And so he just picked up a rattle trap and started throwing it around. I say rattle trap. So if you hear me say rattle trap, I'm just old school. A rattle trap is anything rattling bait. He did actually throw the actual brand rattle trap. Throughout practice, he probably threw 5 or 6 different kinds of rattling baits. I couldn't tell you what they were. I looked back there, he'd change, he'd have a different one on. Most of the time I didn't care because he never caught them so good that I cared, but he did get bit behind me at times. What I was trying to figure out is there were times he would be beating me, right? He'd catch 2 or 3 behind me, and then I would catch some and then catch a big one, and he wouldn't catch any behind me. And I was always trying to figure out, but a lot of times I really pay attention I always ask "Hey, where'd you catch that one?" A lot of times I either never threw there or I was throwing a different bait. like trying something else out. So I don't get caught up if he caught 3 or 4 behind me. A lot of times he would throw on the other side of the boat and catch one, which was great. You know, it helped out. But I didn't throw there. So I wasn't sitting there going, okay, they chose his bait over mine. I was just, you know, I just took it all in. So day 1 goes through. We kind of catch them, not really great. You know, nothing big. Day 2, I went around out deep and stuff and did things, and same deal. We kind of just randomly caught fish throughout the day. Nothing was great. I already kind of had an idea, I thought, from my practice from 10 days earlier of what I was going to go do, which is sometimes not smart, but it is what it is. My feeling on that is I'm going to keep on practicing and trying out new stuff and new water. And if I don't come up with anything better, that's what I'm going to go do. I might fish a little off history and a little bit about what I'm doing, and I'll get a game plan because I know how these tournaments go. January on Rayburn. Let's dissect that for a little bit. If you hear, and I put this in the videos, the stuff that I talk about on camera, if it's in there, chances are there's a reason I put it in there. And if you hear me, even in this last day 2, I talk about why I don't like January, and it's why the reason is like the way they push up sometimes and the way you catch them. It's very hard to fish sometimes. And the reason it's hard for me to fish is they push up in real different areas. You never know when they're going to push. They might push for one day here. You go back the next day and never get a bite, right? I don't like those tournaments. I'd rather, you know, get bit in practice and go there in the tournament and get bit. I don't really like free-for-alls where, you know, you just kind of fish around. And what I was realizing is that like you could go down the bank one day and catch 6 and go down the next day and catch nothing, or go down the bank another bank and catch 1. It's a giant. I've been doing this a long time. You're not going to go down that bank again and catch another big one. It's almost never worked that way. So what I try to do, and this is the part that's important, I try to find like, okay, what's the areas I want to fish that I think fish are somewhat in that area. I know this bank doesn't matter. This bank doesn't matter. It's just, where can I just put myself down in an area and fish around? But I can't rely on one area. I've learned that like one area will totally not dry up. It's just weird like that. Like you'll go there the next day and never get a bite. And it happened for the most part in this event. And so I'd always be, you know, searching like 2 or 3 maybe areas, but you can't run around on this lake in January. You can't run and hit a bunch of spots because it's never worked out for me that way. So you've got to put your head down and fish, and you got to fish new water. And wherever you got bit really doesn't mean you're going to get bit there the next day. So, you know, I have that in my mind. So that's a good pointer I'm giving to y'all. Like you gotta think that before you ever make a cast in practice. So I knew that. So as that's going on, now I'm still trying to figure out baits. I haven't figured out like the right bait. It doesn't seem like anything's working better than the rest. And it's like, okay, if I choose a bait, I'm gonna have to stick with it all day. Like I can't be changing all the time because you might go 2 hours without a bite and then catch 3. So it's not so much about the bait, it's about them moving up. But you got to have confidence to keep on going. So that's going on the whole time, right? That's all the things always running through my head. So day 3 rolls around in practice, and we start fishing, and it's kind of getting, that morning starts off pretty good. I start in a new area, and we kind of catch them. And I'm like, okay, I might start here. And he's catching them, I'm catching them, and nothing big, but I don't care about that. And I go down this other bank, and I catch a big one, like a 6. And I'm like, okay, now some things are starting to come together. I go down another area, and it's the only bite I get on this one bait, and I catch a 6-pounder on it. So I'm like, man, we kind of, this is pretty good. But that was the only bite I had, and but it didn't matter to me. I'm like, hey, I'm still in a big giant area, and I'm still getting some bites, and now I've actually had some big ones. I hadn't had a big bite yet at all the practice. So we kind of just keep messing around, and I go through some other areas trying them out, and we get some bites, and it's one of those deals where I'm throwing out one side, and he's throwing out the other, and he's consistently getting bit on this red on red, right? all week long on red. And now it's getting to the point where today's our better day. And then he catches a 3-pounder, and then he catches a 5-pounder, and it just keeps on getting better. And I'm like, man, God, this red thing and this trap, or this, I don't even know what kind he was throwing at this point. So I was like, man, it's going, but I haven't thrown one. I have not thrown a red eye in practice yet. Like, and we're talking it's probably 1 o'clock on Wednesday, and we have to be off the water by I think 4:30. Might have been like 2 o'clock. And we come out of this creek, and I'm drop shotting or doing something stupid. And he throws over there on this bank, and he hooks one. And if you see in the practice video, I'm like, man, like, that's a pretty big one. And I said, hey, man, was there grass over there? Because I remember being some grass there, but I didn't think it was that much. And he goes, yeah, there's grass over there. I'm like, oh, okay. And so we started fishing down that bank, and I just go ahead and tie on a red eye, and I start catching them. And he's catching them, and we go down and then we go down like, I don't know, we catch like 12 in the last hour and a half. I actually did not catch a single fish on any of that bank where I did all of that. Where we ended the day, I tried it, I never caught a fish. But it didn't matter. I already know that that's possible. That's what happens a lot of times in these events. But I kind of was like, I don't care about that. My main goal at this point was, is there a bait? Is there something I'm missing on this bait deal, on the red eye? And so I made a decision right there. Day one of the tournament, I'm going to start with a red eye and a red color. Now, y'all are probably asking yourselves, this is Rayburn we're talking about. This is the most famous lake in the country for red. You're right. And if I did a video about red, I would be like, it's the most overrated color that there is out there. And what I mean by that is, I probably haven't thrown anything red on Rayburn in 10 years. I'll be honest with you. Like if everyone's throwing red, I'm gonna throw something different. It's just who I am, and that's just what I do. And it's worked for me over the years. I just don't I know red works, but I always kind of think there's something better, and I'm just a guy that doesn't like to do what everyone else does. Well, I was like, man, this is at the point now where I'm like, man, this is kind of getting out of hand, that they seem to really want this red over everything else. And I've honestly never seen it like this. So I talked to my buddy Jason, and I was kind of mentioning it to him, and he was like, yeah, I know, man. It's like, is it that important this year? Like, we've never seen it be that dialed in, where I'm not saying you couldn't catch them on other stuff, but it really seemed to shine more than we've ever seen before in 10 years. And I said, well, I'm not going to argue with it. Let's just go with it. So as day one starts off, I start throwing a red eye and start catching them right off the bat, and I catch them pretty good. I think this is pretty cool. The second or third one, I didn't show it, but the second or third fish I caught had crawfish tentacles sticking out of its mouth. And I'm like, no, there we go. There you go. So I catch fish, catch them all day long, never get off the red. It didn't really matter. I threw different baits in red. It was just about feeling. I can't tell you why I would pick up one over the other and just keep on throwing them. Somewhere throughout the day, I did pick up something different. It got really dead calm, and I caught one of my biggest ones. And for whatever, I don't even know why I picked it up. And then it felt weird again. It got in my head going, yeah, I just caught one, but man, is there really, could I have caught two instead of one? I mean, that all y'all struggle with that, right? Like, in the back of your head, I was like, for 3 days, I have seen that red produce. So, I put it down. Well, fast forward to day 2. We go out there, same deal. Well, now I see things are different. And I'm catching fish. On day 1, when I started in this area, and there was a boat, there was 2 boats. The one boat kind of was coming towards me, and turned around. He caught some fish, turned around, no big deal. And he started in there again. And so I started in there where I started. Another guy kind of tried to come in, But I was watching them like we all do, and I'm like, they didn't catch any fish. I didn't watch them catch any fish. Now, he may not have caught some fish before I got there, but I wasn't that far behind him. And I was like, okay, and I caught 2 or 3 and 1 or 2 small ones. I could tell it was different. It was different. So in the video, I didn't put this in there. On day 1, I probably hit 6 or 7 stretches and caught just one fish on every one of my stretches after my initial bite. On day 2, I hit every single one of those stretches. I never had a bite. I never had a bite on any of those stretches. So in my head, I'm going, okay, this is what today's going to be like, you know? And so once again, it all goes back to what I said before. Like that area, for whatever reason, and it's a giant area, and it's not like I can see all my fishing spots. I have to travel around, but I'm going, okay, it's changing. It's going to be one of those days. So I ended up trying to go fish some deep stuff, and I really didn't feel comfortable out there. I knew some of it was just to catch keepers, and I was like, I'm not out here to do that. But now it's like 12 when I left there, and I went to another spot and started fishing through there, and now it's been an hour in there without a bite, and I'm going, okay, I got to change something. Like I know now that something's changed. I don't know what it is, but something has changed. And I made a small little simple change. It wasn't a big change, but I got off that red eye and I went to a little red hybrid hunter. And I've been throwing it and getting some bites on it. It wasn't like that big of a deal. And I can't tell you if this is, if everything, I can't tell you if making that change made the difference. I can just say I made the change, and within 3 casts, I catch my 4th one. And I'm like, hey, it's 4th one. I mean, I was expecting not to catch a limit. That's how bad the day was going. And I fished for like another 20, 30 minutes. I catch another one. And if you hear me, he's like, you need the net? I'm like, might as well, or I think that was my 4th one, because I was like, might as well, it's not a big one, but it's a limit, I still might get paid. And so it's like 12:45 or almost, no, it's almost 1:45 now. And I pull up on another spot, and I actually haven't caught fish there ever. I fished it 3 weeks ago with Jason in a tournament, never caught a fish. And I was just pulling up to go fish down random banks. That's kind of what I told you. That's what I do a lot in tournaments. I do it all the time. And I'm just trying to come across some. And I've been paying attention to the bank. No one hit it the day before. It's not overly exciting bank. I just pulled up there and I ended up catching one right off the bat, and it was a pretty good one. And it hit right. It hit like a fish that had moved up and hadn't seen a bait. And I was like, man. And then the second one bit, and it was a good one. But man, my mind's running. So a lot of times I got to be honest, like I'll catch fish and I know it's a decent one, but I don't really look to see how big it is. And then I catch a 3rd one, and I get them all, I get them in. They were culling everything really easy. But in my head, I was going, and you hear me go, I didn't have anything this big the day before, before I started on that point, which was the truth. And so in my head, like they weren't even that big a fish, I thought. And I keep fishing around, and like I said, I get down to minutes left, and I make another bait change. I don't know why. I'm like, what does it matter now? I'm gonna throw something a little bit bigger. This does sometimes every once in a while catch a big fish, and I catch my biggest fish of the day. And at the time, I was just kind of jacked up to catch one, but I was trying to hurry as well. And my co-angler's like, hey, that's a good one, and I'll be honest, I spaced out or something, because I was like, it's barely even a 3-pounder. Well, it was probably a 4-pounder. He was right. And I was like, I knew I was pretty much almost late. I knew it took me about 13 minutes to get back. I don't like to leave myself 2 minutes. And it's literally, I'm like, man, we got to go. And so I culled real quick. I'm pretty sure I culled the right one. And I really thought I had 13.5 pounds. I was kind of doing the math in my head. Well, I get back and I find I have like over 15.5. And I even told the guy, I was like, man, I don't even remember catching these. But that's what went on. I bring all that up because it was like, I'm not so sure it was these small little bait changes that made the difference. We can go into areas all you want to. Listen, I mean, that lake is big, okay? And a lot of guys caught fish in a lot of different areas, right? So I always try to tell people on Rayburn, man, stop warrant like the spot deal. I understand Derek Mundy caught a big, bag off of a spot. My buddy Jason caught a big bag off of a spot. If you want to hear about that big bag about Jason's, not so much the big bag, but if you want to hear about some crazy thought processes and like what went down, watch our bass singer therapy after this one. We already shot it, but we're doing a bass singer therapy after this juice video. It's probably going to blow some people's minds. Some people are going to think we're stupid and we don't know what we're talking about and all these things. I'll just say, hey guys, we've caught a lot of big bags over the years. We've done things a certain way that has helped us win over a lot of years, not just one tournament. So we look at it very differently than most. Not saying what we're thinking about is right, but go check out the video, the bass singer therapy. We are explaining a decision that Jason made to Bradley Hallman and Andrew Upshaw. So go check that out. But anyways, that's the juice. That's what I figured out on Rayburn. That was for just this event. I think everything will change from that tournament. I mean, it won't be the same. A lot of guys always ask me, hey, why don't you go find those big bags out deep? I think I've done videos about that. Let me tell you something. Just because one guy found them, or basically two guys found them, and they caught them one day, right? I mean, they didn't really catch big bags except one day. You can go, he was one bag away from not even getting a check. That's the problem with those bags out there. And man, the wind and all kinds of different things can hurt you, and they're not just easy to find. Like you can spend like months out there trying to find them, just one, and they're liable to leave on you. So it's great when you come across one, but it's very hard to like just say, I'm gonna go do this for 3 days. Man, you can go do that for 3 days and never find a spot that holds 10 pounds. So I don't always look for that. If I have something like that already available to me that I've already found, I might fish it. But for the most part, they're almost impossible to find in practice. So that's why I don't usually do that. I think this is the more consistent way. You can still catch a giant bag out of the grass. I think the last day in practice, we had 26. 26 is a pretty big bag, guys. And I'll take that all day long in an event. I know it was with two guys, but I'm just saying they were there to be caught. But that's the juice video, guys. That's what I figured out on Rayburn. It was different. I mean, it was just, it was crazy to see one color be by far and above that much better than all the rest of them. And I know everyone's going to say, yeah, but it's Rayburn red. And I'm just telling you guys, I'm not saying it's a myth. What I'm saying is that Rayburn red is overrated. Yes, it will always, it's almost like saying a Cinco will catch a fish. Well, heck yeah, it'll always catch a fish. It's really hard to win a tournament doing it though. It's really hard. It's rarely ever, it will always catch fish, but it's rarely ever like that much better than everything else out there. Well, for this tournament, it seemed like that red was that much better than everything else out there. And so this is the juice. It's all about red. I mean, it's all about red. Guys, I hope that helps. It's just these little bitty decisions we make in the tournament that we figure out. And sometimes it's, and here's the deal. For 4 days, I had seen something work. And on that 5th day, and the 3 practice days, tournament day of day 1 and day 2, and I made just a switch, because I'm like, something tells me after 4 days, if I haven't had a bite in 4 or 5 hours, I need to switch. I need to do something to change things up. Even though I stayed with red, it was just a bait switch, and maybe I just coincidence that all of a sudden I started catching fish. I don't ever think that's a coincidence. Something happened, something changed. Maybe it was the day, but it didn't matter. Now I was dialed in, and all y'all know, once you get dialed in, once you feel like you got that momentum behind you, man, it just starts. it just starts rolling after that. And that's kind of what happened. It just rolled for that like last hour and a half, 2 hours. Man, my confidence was like sky high, and I could do anything I wanted to, and felt like I was going to get bit. I mean, that's why I literally fished up to 3 o'clock, because I was sitting here in my head going, I'm going to catch another one. Like, I really was like, I'm going to catch another one. And that's why I pushed the limits so far before I went in. But anyways, hope that helps, guys. A little juice on Rayburn. See y'all. Check out that Bass Singer Therapy, guys. And like I said, if not, go check out those other videos prior to that. You can kind of put all those videos together, listen, see the changes I made. I think it'll help you guys out. See y'all.